I come from a poor family, yeah, yeah. We ain't never had a lot, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the Lord been good to us, yeah, yeah. Now we riding on the top, yeah, yeah, yeah. I come from a poor
Good morning, Richie.
Oh, we're starting. We are in here. We are in the boat.
We're in the
Wednesday
boat.
morning. Let's go.
Wednesday morning, guys. Welcome to Builder of All Things podcast, where we talk faith, business, and construction. And we're glad to have you here this morning with us.
Yeah, I'm tired. I was up till I pulled one of those 1:30 to 2 a.m.s with my wife, binging on TV shows last night.
Hey, man, that's quality time, though.
It is.
It's
It is
worth
quality
it.
time, but then waking up I got Bible study every Wednesday with my brother, waking up at 4:45 to to dig in. So yeah, I should have went to bed a little bit earlier. So I am on my second cup of coffee, but the good thing about coffee in an ADD guy, we click.
As best friends after that
We
drink.
are best friends. So I'm going to last for about an hour, and I'm going to be like Jim Carrey on that show, Yes Man. I'm be running around with my Red Bulls, and all of a sudden you're just going to see me sleeping on the corner.
Yeah.
On the sidewalk.
A little 5 minute.
I'll give you a good hour. So let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our first stream on the boat.
Yeah.
Faith. How do you deal with doubt in your faith? And this is I mean, I think every believer goes through this at least,
Yeah,
at least 100 times.
You're not immune. You're not immune to it. I think even more so, sometimes being in the faith, you can, have expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think doubt sometimes could come very strong, sometimes stronger.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have this source that I'm not seeing, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't feel it, or I'm not seeing it right now. So doubt can really creep in really strong, because sometimes it's not as evident as you'd want it to be. So yeah, I think how I deal with doubt in my faith. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not immune to it. There are days in my life. I think my biggest doubt moments is when I'm managing my failures. When I am not meeting my expectations and I feel like I failed in something, whether it's something I'm supposed to, even little things like not shopping for my wife at the grocery store. She gives me a grocery list.
Well, I think that comes with your personality, too. So it comes, you don't like to fail. You like to win.
And I'm ADD. So I'm going for her list. All of a sudden, while I'm in the store, I had no reason to be there except for her. And I'm shopping my own list now because I'm in there. Like, hey, while I'm here, I can get some office treats for myself. Yeah. And I go on these little tangents. And then when I come back, that's the wrong oil, or that's the wrong vegetable. That's the wrong. I wanted frozen, not fresh. Or I wanted fresh, not frozen. So, but that's a little kind of failure. But then you have your big failures, not meeting financial obligations as a father, a husband, or head of the household, or not, being, there emotionally for somebody, or there's just so many different things in business where you have expectations you want to meet and you fail. So when I'm managing my failures, a lot of times I focus on myself, or the failure, or the things that made me fail, and it can really weigh you down. It really can weigh you down. And doubt, what is doubt? Basically, it's like a lack of trust, right? Is that what doubt is? It's like, wait a minute, I don't know if I can trust this, or I can't trust myself in this. So for me, how do I deal with it is my focus on Jesus is the key component to the cure to my doubt. So there's a story in the Bible, Matthew 14, where Jesus basically just heard about John the Baptist, who's his cousin, just got his head cut off. That's kind of dramatic, but it's true. Got his head cut off. And he found word on the street came to him and said, hey, your cousin is actually died. So he was in a sad place, right? We talked about that the last couple weeks. Yeah. He basically went to a place by himself, spent some time. But then he found out that there are people. So this is the same storyline. There were some people about 5,000 men, and then plus women and children that they were hungry, they were sick, And they were like, wait a minute, this is the healer, the person that can save us or try to help us with some food, but there was only a little bit of food.
Yeah.
And so Jesus was able to display his miracle power and said, yo, give me he didn't say yo, but yeah. He said, yo, give me the basket, the 5 baskets we have. I want to make sure everybody gets fed. We're good to go. So he feeds 5,000 men and plus women and children. And then he's so tired, he's so run down that, he just needs to be by himself, pray and recharge. So he sends his group of disciples out on the boat, out to sea they have somewhere else they got to go, and they got to get there quick. They got to go at night. So we need to head this way. So he instructs them. He gives them the GPS again, right? Yeah. Says, look, go on the boat, go without me, just go. So there are seasons, where, I'll have doubt like these disciples where they're out in the middle of the ocean. Jesus is not even with them. Last time we talked about a storm hitting and Jesus was asleep, but at least he was on the boat. Yeah. We can always reach out, wake him up, or, have a conversation like, hey, that was kind of my thing last couple weeks was wake him up. But now it's like, he's not even on the boat and winds are hitting again. And, it's one of those, not a storm, but it was just a windy night. And it's banging the boat. And in those kind of moments, you can kind of feel like doubtful, right? You can be like, how are we going to get through this? The man who just displayed he's our provider, in a time of everyone's hungry, he's now not even with us, know? And so seeing I think it was like the 4th watch of the night, which is early in the morning before the sun breaks, Jesus just appears. And think of it, it's super windy and he's just kind of standing on water. Like not even moving.
He's chilling, huh?
Chilling. And it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite stories, the miraculousness of him walking on water, and just kind of approaching the boat. And they're like, man, is that a ghost? Who is that? And then they kind of recognize it's Jesus. And Peter, recognizes who it is. It's like, yo, Jesus, if that's you, call me, I will come to you. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, tells Peter, well, come on then, man. So Peter actually steps off the boat and he's walking on water. And then I think he hears the wind. He looks up and then boom, he starts sinking. And he's like, Jesus, save me. And Jesus grabs his hand and said, where's your faith, man? Pulls him up, puts him on the boat. The rest of the crew grabs Jesus, pulls him on the boat. So now we're all good to go, right? We got Jesus back on the boat. But within that story, it's that focusing point, right? Like when doubt comes, looking at the world nowadays and just paying attention to the climate of everything that's happening with, COVID through businesses, the political climate. I mean, there's just so much going on in the world that some doubt can come in to what's next, what's tomorrow, what should I expect? Or businesses don't know how we're going to survive when the staffing's not there. Maybe they're not busy anymore. Maybe they're over busy and can't meet the new demand. And that's also kind of can be a failure, right? It's like, man, we've never had so much opportunity as a business. Like restaurants are getting slammed, but they don't have anybody to meet the demand. So that's actually bad for business, So it's probably a rough area, and there's just doubt in a lot of people's minds. How can we trust this system even, or, what's next? So doubt can come in, and even relationships, right? I've, dealt with a lot of doubt. Am I doing the right thing as a father? Am I doing the right thing as a husband? Or, am I doing the right thing as an owner? Or as, there's just so many moments where I don't want to fail. So me personally, doubt can creep in when I'm dealing with managing. I don't want to fail. So that gets scary to me. I always doubt what I'm doing because is this the right thing to do? But why I share the story with Peter and Jesus is because the question is, how do you deal with it? When I feel doubt coming in, my battle is, what am I focusing on? Sometimes if I'm focusing on the doubt, that's going to sink me. Right? That's where you start sinking, because I'm focusing on the wind. The wind is what's beating at the boat. It's what's kind of distracting me from the course and the path that God already set the GPS for. It's what's blowing. Doubt's trying to come in and say, try to hit you. That was a wind noise.
Wind noise. So we got sound effects here,
We got
guys.
sound effects here. The wind is like doubt trying to creep in and say, yo, Richie, what you're doing as a business owner, this is not going to be ideal for your employees. This is not going to be ideal for the client. And, everything in me is, thinking this is the best thing. But then you have the wind thoughts coming in, which makes you feel doubt, looking at business, looking at the wood prices going up, looking at, our clients buying homes left and right in Hawaii, but will this stop? Like, are we investing to grow as a business, but could the climate of this change in like 6 months? So all this doubt comes in. Are we taking the right steps? And
Yeah.
ultimately, we always got to remember Jesus set the GPS. That's key. As long as he set the GPS, you can have faith. So you can go a whole nother story. If you're setting your own GPS, then what do you do when the wind's beating at the boat?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you allow and you search and seek and find and allow Jesus to set the GPS in your life, when there is a time where the boat's getting beat by doubt, Jesus will appear. He won't leave you hanging. He will come out there without his boat, because he had a boat. If you go read Matthew 14, he had one boat left, but he didn't use it. He was like, oh, my peeps need me. I'm going to go ahead and just skip on water real quick and jump over there and do a little transportation and just transport over there real quick and just boom, I'm here, guys. What's up? I felt the doubt hitting you guys, but I want you to know I'm here. I'm your provider, but I'm also your savior. So to bring it home, Jesus it's not necessarily Peter's faith to step out, but that he was focusing on Jesus. And when you get in doubt, I don't want to just step out in faith to Jesus. I want to call on him first and say, Jesus, if you want me to, step out in faith to you, call me. And then when he does, I want to step out and trust and keep focus on him because focusing on him is not just putting a mental picture of a Jesus guy in your head, right? That's on focusing on him. It's basically the focus part is saying, you set the GPS. I'm going to trust, even when I walk off the boat here for a second, that you're going to carry me and it's going to be all good. Because if you can carry me here, you can carry the boat. Right. If you can carry me without the boat, you can carry me with the boat. So I think for me, that's how I handle doubt, is always turn my focus and attention back on Jesus versus the doubt.
It's such a challenge. I mean, doubt is because you're not seeing God, or you don't have something tangible with you. It makes it difficult, and I guess that's a challenge for believers, right? I know back in the Old Testament, it started with them Aaron making a golden calf to represent God, and they wanted something tangible, and they wanted. So it's. I understand. I can understand the doubt, and they want something there to have visually, I guess. What I didn't know was that he built it as a representation of God, not like an actual God itself. But they wanted him.
They wanted
kind
something
of there.
tangible.
Yeah. But God's like, no, that's not how it goes, fam. Like, and it's the challenge of believing Jesus even when he's not there. And so. Doubt is a crazy thing, and like you said, you just got to focus on him and have the hope for Jesus to set.
That's a trust. To have trust that even when the wind and doubt comes, that he will show up. He won't take a boat and try to catch up to you. He's there, man. He's there. I thought that was always cool since I was a little kid reading that story, saying, "Dang, like he just was there." Like, oh, I got you.
I got you.
I got you.
Well, awesome. We're going to head down our second stream, Rich, which is business. And here's a question. As an owner, how do you manage your business while wearing multiple hats? So kind of walk me through your multiple hats, and then let me know how do you handle that.
Oh, man. It's really easy. You get a hat, display, and basically I have an all things new hat. I have a Quicksilver hat. Okay.
It's all
I got a cowboy hat.
No.
You just switch them out when you're okay. So hats. When we say hats, we're talking about different positions in a company. It's kind of a general term that's used that says you're handling different positions, right? So. What's the question again? Is basically, how do I handle, what's the question again?
How do you manage your business while wearing multiple hats?
How do you handle the business while wearing multiple hats? See, the whole hat joke took me down.
Yeah.
I wanted to think of some kind of fun hat thing, but it didn't go nowhere. How do I handle the business wearing multiple hats? I think this is a place that business owners, a lot of construction colleagues of mine, fall into because they're originally tradesmen, right? That turn into a businessman. And ultimately you're swinging hammer or you're cutting and you're getting phone calls at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So you got to manage different things. You're also your financial manager. You're taking care of your QuickBooks or your accounting app or whatever you're using. You're the receptionist. You're the lead coordinator. You're the carpenter. You're the foreman. You're the project manager.
This question is bringing Richie back to his first year of business, man.
First 3 years, three or 4 years. I was playing every hat there was, but we still had a team. So how do I handle wearing multiple hats is, I think what I've learned and where I'm at now is you got to learn to let go. That's the hardest part, is really know what you want to do. If you want to be a carpenter, just stick to being a carpenter. If you want to be a businessman, you got to be a businessman. So if you want to become an owner one day to have a business for your construction or for your trade, you got to be half businessman at least. You got to be willing to hang up your pouch.
When you say you got to learn to let go, it sounds fancy and romantic, but what's going to cause you to actually let go?
Well, I believe, like I said before, I'm learning really to believe that employees are assets, not liabilities. So, letting go means giving it somewhere to somebody else and trusting in that. You know what I'm saying? It's, I think a lot of times as, a tradesman or a builder or somebody in that, or it could be anything. It could be somebody who makes cakes. Yeah. You can build a business around you, but you're going to have to get somebody who runs the business side of things. If you're going to, you can't play both. And that's where it gets really hard, is wearing multiple hats. So how do I deal with it? So what is this person right now that they can't imagine hiring, other people? It's kind of like back to the story with Peter and Jesus is, you're going to have a boat, which is your business, and it's going in the GPS that it's supposed to go. But, you have to step out in faith. That's what it is. It's a faith move. You have to be able to step out and trust that, you could still walk on water as a business owner. And basically, I think Peter was probably the captain of the ship. I mean, Peter's name is all over the Bible. He was a fisherman. He knows boats. So when he's with the disciples and he's a fisherman, all these other guys, they weren't fishermen. Some of them were and kind of worked with Peter, but Peter was like probably the captain of the boat if we were to give him a position. So he was probably the man. So for him to just abandon his boat, like, wait a minute, you're like the guy who knows how to get this thing going and you're about to step off the boat. You know what I mean? That's that step of faith saying, look, I'm willing to give up my pouch. I'm willing to give up this and step out in faith and watch. I can still float. I can still walk on water because who I'm focusing on. So, think in business, a lot of people are going to wear multiple hats. You might have to go through a season of that, and how to handle it. It can get overwearing and bait. So overweighing, and it could bear weight. So, my advice is find the thing you can give up, one thing at a time. So giving it up doesn't mean you're not going to do it, but finding somebody to take that role from you. So that is how you handle it. Is you can't give it all away at one time. So if you're wearing 10 hats, what is one thing that could be valuable to give up? And for me, answering phones was number one. That was number one. Number two is the financial part, the administration part. Is there one person that can handle the financial, handle the administration part, handle the receipts, taking in everything? So, that's another hat. Is there somebody who can help with estimating? Is there somebody who can help just manage the project? Is there somebody? So there's always little, positions you can create, and one position and one hat at a time. Find a way to relieve yourself, because ultimately there's a 20-80 rule. Basically 20% of my time, I got to believe, can produce 80% production, have 80% production.
Yeah.
But if I'm focused on a lot of things that other hats and other people can be doing, I could be using 40% of my time, but only have 60% production.
Mm-hmm.
So the more hats I'm wearing, so if I'm doing 100% hat wearing, I might only have 20% production.
Right.
Because I'm doing too many things. But if I can release those things, and it's like every position, everyone can only has to give 20% of their effort and get 80% production.
Yeah.
If you're caught doing things too much, you're gonna have smaller amounts of production. So there's like a weight change there. You see that?
Yeah.
So everyone's goal should be, man, I only want to have 20%.
Yeah.
It's like if you were to take a 40-hour week, 20%, that's not that many hours. But if you were to focus on one hat for only 2 days straight with nobody, no other distraction, you're gonna have 80% production.
100%. Yeah.
Get
I
it?
mean, 100%. Yeah.
100. That's the 80.
Yeah. 20-80 rule.
Yeah, it's the 20-80 rule. So, if you're caught doing 2 hats, so you're at 40% of your time, meaning you're doing 2 different things, you only can give your attention 2 different levels. So your production level in those 2 areas drops. So learning that kind of concept and displaying that takes faith. It's step out on water to give up a position and trust somebody, especially when you're an owner. Because when you're an owner, that means you're like a father to a baby. You're a parent to a baby, and your business is the baby. So it's really hard to get daycare probably the first time. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the same thing. It's like to be a parent, you got to provide. You got to go to work. You got to find somebody to watch over the baby. So you got to actually find somebody you trust to just say, hey, here's my baby. I'm going to give to you for a few 6 hours of the day or
go work
8 hours of the day. Man, this is my baby. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with the business. It's hard. I get it, to step out of faith and say, hey, you guys can take the helm because I gotta do this. But ultimately, that's how I deal with multiple hats, is identifying what they are and what hat can I give away. One, to have somebody else take on that role, one person at a time.
Rich, before we head into the third last question, what was your reaction to the first fruits of that kind of seed in terms of hiring the operator, hiring someone for it, what did it feel like when you started to see the fruit of that?
You're gonna laugh, but it created more work. So more weight, more positions, more. But that's like the goal, right? You want the baby to grow up and be able, especially with our mission as a company, is to saturate the island with the best company as possible, so people have a place to go to get a great experience with construction. So we want to grow. We want to be able to serve as many people as we can, and in order to do that, we have to have growth spurts. So. You have to really decide as an owner, where do you want to go? What's your 10-year vision? What's your 5-year vision? Because if your 10-year vision is to grow, this is growth. You cannot grow without people. You need a team. Like, this isn't the Richie show. This isn't the Ray show, only on the podcast. But ultimately, we have a great team. We have a great staff. We have great carpenters. And you have to constantly train, constantly build, constantly work together. And you need different positions constantly. We have 30 plus employees now, and it's I don't think we even touched the surface of what we can do. So people think 30 may be a lot, but to me, I can see eventually us having 50 easily. Right. Because there's a lot to do when displaying an experience, right? If you look at Disney World or Disneyland, I haven't been to Disney World, but I've been to Disneyland. So let's go with Disneyland. When you go there's a lot of people, employees walking around in outfits that don't even need to be there. They're not like working. They're just there for the experience. Right. But that's the idea too, right? It's like, creating that experience for us, or for the homeowners. We want that constantly. You're going to need a lot of people, and so the fruits is it created more work, and that's like what everyone wants, right? The opportunity to work and to have your boat constantly fueled so it can constantly move. So getting new work, whether you're selling something or you're building something or whatever your business is, right? If you want to grow, you need to release some of those hats.
And that's all about scaling, right? And it depends on what the business owner wants to do and the dreams and goals that he or she has. So, I mean, if you want to stay in that tier and you see those fruits, that's awesome. You've seen it grow, and you should probably implement that if you want to grow bigger, right? But
Yeah, I think if I were to like capitalize this, the saying is "let it go to let it grow."
Let it go, let it grow.
Let it go to let it grow.
Guys, I'm telling you, go online and get Richie's a business coaching. We talk about ROI,
man.
scaling, hiring. We gotta talk about hiring soon.
Hiring. Yeah, we'll get that in there.
We'll get that in there at some point. So let's head into the third stream. We got a little bit more time, Richie. In the construction stream, what is overhead?
Overhead, yeah. Overhead. It's a fee, is what it is. That I think it's good to educate homeowners and builders to kind of understand this fee, because it's not a typical fee you see connected to some water that you buy at 7-Eleven or a musubi. You know, like that's just one price, right? So understanding construction, there are some disclosure of fees just so you can understand the whole operation. So construction in and of itself, or specialty trade, it's charged a little bit different than what some service companies do. So overhead is indirect cost to a project. So basically, if you're hiring me to install a door or a kitchen, let's go with kitchen. I'm a builder, I got to install a kitchen. We have what's called direct cost. Me, as a worker, buying material, the exact cost of the material, the time I was there buying the material. I show up to the house, I demo, the fee of the labor to demo, the fee to dump the waste, the fee to install, hire the countertop guy to come install. So
every single thing,
the bit you need, the shims you need, the fasteners you need. These are all what's called direct cost. And the project's a little bit bigger. You have to rent equipment, you have to rent porta potty, or you do have, say you need scaffolds and you do have them, you have to have a small maintenance fee for those scaffolds to pay for themselves eventually. So it could be like $15 every 2 or 3 days, or just for you need the scaffold. Everything has a direct cost to the project. But then you have this indirect cost, right? Because all that happened. But what is the overhead? It's all the costs that are going to happen regardless if you hire us or not. So rent and lease, a space that you're paying for, right, as an establishment, all your insurances that you have to pay for, the person answering the phone, to anything that happens administratively to take care of your finances, the taxes, all these things that have vehicles and tools and shop, just all these indirect things that are in place. Estimating, everyone gets free estimates, but they're not free. You're just not paying for them.
Right.
They're not free. We pay sometimes $1,000, up to $1,000 for $1,000 project for an estimate.
Jeez.
Yeah, when you really think about the math of paying a guy to go, sometimes he has to go twice. You just blew it. Then the project ends up only being the scope of work is only $1,000, but you've already paid somebody who's an estimator at a certain amount, and they go and they spend some time. They have to research some specific material, and they can't get a hold of the vendor, and all of a sudden you spent $800,000 for a $1,000 project. So you got to be very mindful. Free estimates aren't free. They're just not charged to the homeowner, because that's the competitive nature of the business. We'll get free estimates. Everyone gets free estimates. So that's why we have the phone call, to make sure we can understand deeply what the scope of work is. We don't want to overinvest in something. People are just window shopping, because we can educate. We have methods to educate quickly. So overhead is a fee that it's very important to account for when you're doing a project estimate with a homeowner. So homeowners to understand and educate that without this fee, builders can set themselves up for failure and put themselves in a bad place for not charging this over a period of time, especially if they have fees attached to it. Smaller companies will have very minimal overhead fees, maybe just gas to drive around and estimates. And how do you generate this fee? Basically, over an annual period of time, a contractor needs to collect the data of all the costs that were indirect to any project and see what that is over a year time. What percentage is that against your overall revenue. So if your overall revenue for the year is $100,000 and you spent $10,000 that had nothing to do with projects, then your overhead fee should be 10%. Okay. So what happens is, to survive as a company and to have everything in place, your license, your insurances, your establishment, your vehicles, getting the right, everything you need to make the thing run, you have to pay this fee, right? So every project and every year you recheck where your overhead is. Typical overhead for probably a subcontractor or somebody that doesn't have a full establishment, you're probably looking around 10%. Somebody like us who has 3 locations, estimators and architects on staff, and lead coordinators and a financial manager, and high level of revenue that creates high level of insurances, and your all the utilities that go involved, all the phones and all this kind of stuff, the waste, just waste for the warehouse. All these type of things generate a fee, and so the overhead typically for a firm like us could be up to 20% or higher. So those are big costs, and then profit margins. Every company has to charge a markup to survive as well, because you can't just. So if you just charge overhead and direct cost, then you're just working. Yeah, exactly. And if there's any variance, that's scary. So you always have to get a markup to have cash flow, to have opportunity to be the best you can be in your position to serve clients. So typical markup for contractors or firms our size are between probably 5 to 7%. I think subcontractors have to go a little bit more. Their projects are a little bit smaller, so their markups are typically around 15%. Because the variances are larger on smaller projects. Sure. If you charge $5,000 for a project and your crew is about $1,500 a day, one day the ratio margin on one day mishap is a big deal. But if you have a $1 million project, one day mishap, the ratios, it's totally different ratios. So there's a little bit more contingency in smaller projects versus the larger projects. But great question, because homeowners can educate it. Overhead is very important, and don't try to penny pinch an overhead, because it can put a contractor in a bad place. You don't financially. You need to have homeowners got to have their ducks in a row ready to pay contractors, because contractors are not banks. I think that's the thing, is like a lot of homeowners, I get it, they want to be scared but do your due diligence on finding out a good contractor. And when you do, just make sure there's a healthy financial relationship there too. They need to meet their demand, but they do make sure you're ready to pay them, and pay them fast, because that relationship is healthy. But do your due diligence to make sure you have the right contractor, because you don't want them to. These are all the D's. You don't want them to dip. Dip is like get out of there with, escape with your money. So I get that side of it too. But overhead is important. It's important. It helps us survive. But it has to be recalculated every year. You just got to take your overall revenue or expected revenue. What were your costs and what is your percentage? And that's how you survive. That's how you get through it. So
these are things we don't think about.
It's indirect overhead. So even projects have what's called direct overhead. And those are things that certain insurances you need or certain items you need for that project, then those would be charged accordingly. But indirect is very important.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Episode 8.
Episode 8 in the house. We're supposed to have a special guest today, very special, but couldn't make it today. So we might surprise on the next one, even though it's a little bit out of order, just to get them in there. It's just going to be a good one. So we just want to let you know.
Guys, share this with your friends and family. If you know any homeowners or people that are looking to buy a home, I think this is a great podcast for business owners as well.
And you get to learn a little bit about our faith, where we, how we handle our, situations in life. It's just life situations and how our faith is in play, and then how do we use our, our faith in business, So
awesome. Episode 8. That's going to wrap it up. Richie, until next time.
We are on the boat.
On the boat.
All right.
Peace, guys.
Thank you, guys.
I come from a poor family.